My name is Mac, and I started Sword Fight Society with my friend Eric after we've been fighting in our backyards. I started Sword Fight Society because all the other reenactment groups had too many rules and equipment regulations, and we really just wanted to get together and fight. We just signed waivers and try not to get hit in the spots that we're not armored. No. Yeah. I just filled out some forms online and became a HEMA group. I went and recorded a fight with my little brother on the beach, kind of showing how we were doing these fights. Then people wanted to come and fight. I got approval to meet in the park because there was already a group of foam fighting kids fighting here for years. So I figured they already had some medieval reenactment style fighting going on here and they wouldn't mind having the steel swords. The first practice, we had a bunch of guys come out. Some of them were in motorcycle armor, some of them were in lacrosse stuff, some of them were in fencing masks, and I have all my historical armor. There was blood, somebody got their hand cut, but we all signed waivers. Blasted him in the hand. Bleeding all over.
I remember that.
We checked on him and he was okay. He was cut, but good.
My name is Colten Lester.
Good.
I went on the computer and found Sword Fight Society on a list of HEMA clubs in Ohio.
We just set up a rule set that is called Fast 5. So you take 5 shots that you think are good strikes that are hit you somewhere that's not armored, then you're dead. If you take a strike that you think would have killed you, then you're dead. We still use blunt weapons, and that's how we started the club, with mostly my swords and Eric's swords. We brought them out to the park, and that's what the people who showed up to the first practice were using. We do allow grappling. We pretty much allow anything. It's a fight, and that's kind of the feeling we wanted to get from it.
We started off going really hard.
The recreation department was getting phone calls because they couldn't believe that they allowed such a level of violence in the park. That is. Why go with this? Good. Good. Bye, guys.
I loved it. Just the pushing myself and putting myself in danger. It's just, I'm a thrill seeker and it's just something I gotta do. I charged Mac one day and I got thrown and landed on my shoulder in a strange way, and it gave me a Hill-Sachs lesion and tore my rotator cuff. Yeah, I have surgery coming up.
Okay.
The second one.
This attracted some people who really wanted combat.
There were a couple characters who started coming around with dangerous weapons.
Some of these people didn't have real reenactment weapons and they didn't want to use mine, so they started bringing things like shovels and garden hose and different things that they would convince me were medieval weapons because a peasant would use them.
And they were crazy.
Come on, fight! Are you alright?
So after all the shovels and stuff, this one dude, he really wanted to push the limits with weapons. He brought a sickle that was 5 foot long, and he put a little rubber tip on it, but it was still very dangerous. He also brought a real sword. It had real edges and it was sharp and it didn't flex at all like the reenactment swords that we use.
Good thing you had mail on, dude.
I'm in decent armor, and so I figured if anybody's going to get through it, it's going to be me. So I'd fight him once, and I'd get through it, and I'd ask him not to bring the weapon again. We wanted to get some cool backdrops besides just the park. We started to go to some cool locations. We went to the Cultural Gardens in Cleveland. And I was trying to get some cool videos online and really trying to show some other people in different historical fencing groups what we were doing. And so I was taking some risks, and we were fighting a little bit without our helms or masks on. We went to this park that had this small bridge over a creek, and it was about 20 feet up, and the bridge was only maybe 2.5 feet wide. And I said, look, we're just doing show fighting up here. Do not thrust with that sword for me, because I have nowhere to go side to side. I can go back, but this is really precarious up here. You know, we did a few exchanges. I was doing a lot of flourishes and flares and really telegraphing my moves for him so he could see them. And as soon as he had an opportunity, he thrust right for my face. He took that sharp sword and it just came right for my face. As soon as it happened, I thought about, you know, that would have been my teeth and my neck, and I would have been dead.
And on Christmas Eve, we came down here and shot a cool fight down by the water. The guy with the sickle was there, and he was dressed like death. And I fought the sickle, and it was snowing, and it looked really cool. So the next week, Eric had to go out. He demanded that we go sword fight. So everybody said okay, so we all came out even though it was really cold. It didn't even look like the lake. It looked all white. It looked like another world. Everybody's armor was cold. It was under 20 degrees. But still, we fought. We spent the day doing a whole practice, a whole session. The last thing we did, Eric decided to do a fight, everybody versus him. And it was just him and his sword and shield. And he beat everybody. So afterwards, you know, we were standing there and I said, you want to do that again? And he said, I don't know, my shoulder's kind of hurting. And I said, is it just from holding up your shield? He said, no, I've had an unhealthy holiday season. And I said, all right, well, what do you want to do? And he said, let's pack it up. And so we said, all right, well, I'll pack it up. And we're getting our stuff together. And we looked over and he was laying on his back in the snow. And we thought maybe he was just taking a break. And then we got closer and realized that something was wrong. So we got his mask off him and we started to resuscitate him and to try to bring him back. We called the paramedics. They were here in 3 minutes. And we were, you know, unbuckling his armor, and they were giving him CPR and doing everything they could do, but that was it. He didn't make it after that. I guess he had a heart attack, and the extreme conditions mixed with the extreme fighting, mixed with him being on some medication that he wasn't taking, that was his last fight.
I think that's kind of the way any of us would want to go out, fighting in our armor.
So the current HEMA community's kind of normalized. There's some more fighters that are wanting to do more traditional style sparring. So we train at a regular fencing school. Everything's a little bit more regulated now. Once in a while we still come out to the park though and fight like we used to in Sword Fight Society.
You punched him in the mask.
Punched him? No throwing any weapons. You hurt? Is that hurt?
Don't forget you signed a media release before you did this. It's included in your liability release. So don't be coming to my house with crossbows complaining because you're in this video. When the police came by and they said, hey, we're not comfortable with the weapons that this guy's bringing. I said, hey, don't bring these weapons. He got mad at me and he stormed off and he went to his car, and one of the other guys went over to talk to him, and he came back and he said, yeah, he wants to fight you. And I said, what do you mean? He said, he wants to fist fight you. And I said, well, I'm not going to fist fight him. We got a bunch of swords here. We got a bunch of equipment. So give him a mask and give him a sword and tell him Sword Fight Society's waiting for him in the circle. So I'd give him one last fight and tell him to go as hard as he wants. So he came with a sword and shield, and I had stashed a couple swords in the ground behind me that he didn't know about. And I just had a long sword. And as soon as he came at me, I just aggressively started to thrust for his face, and I was smacking his forearms really hard. He reached back, and with all his might, he went and swung for me. That's the thing you could hope for, is somebody to overextend themselves. As soon as he did that, I started popping him in the face again and hitting him in his arms. And he couldn't do anything except for try to grapple me, which I'm wearing all this armor, and so I just kind of set my weight down. He tried to pull me over, and he grabbed my sword and had it kind of jammed in his side. And so I let it go, and I started pulling him back to where I had the other sword stashed, and he didn't know what I was doing, and so he let go of me and lifted his sword up, and as he lifted it up, I pulled one of my other swords out of the ground, and he came down, and he had blocked it with my sword perfectly. So again, I started just blasting him back in the face and hit him in the forearms, and I thought, these blunt weapons are not enough. You know, if I go any harder, this guy's gonna get a broken arm or something's gonna happen, he's gonna sue me. I gotta figure out a way to take him down and end this fight. And so I just got next to him and I just grabbed him by his head and I flipped him over my hips and I tapped out on his face.